You can sell memberships, you can have loyalty programs, but if you don't have the staff and the experience to go with it, they're not going to want to return.
Hi, I'm Russ, and this is the Memory Makers Podcast, the show that helps you create amazing customer experiences and make more memories. So with me today, no jingle, but with me today is Megan Zemaitis from Roller Software, the Honorable Megan Zemaitis. And Megan, welcome to the program, and we're stoked to have you here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. So Megan is the first dignitary that we have on the show. As we were chit-chatting before we started recording, Megan, you are actually the mayor of your town. Tell us how that came to pass.
Yeah. So fun fact, my mother was mayor and on council for many years when I was growing up. So I always got to watch her in action. And, as a young kid, I was like, wow, I can't wait to do that myself. So, once I got married and settled and I bought a house, I was like, okay, it's time. So I ran for council. I served as a council member and vice mayor for 4 years. And then I finally was like, all right, it's time to take it up a notch. And then I ran for the big seat. And I won this past April. So.
Oh, well, congratulations. And whatever curtsy or bow I need to do, then we'll we'll have a good time with it. So love that. One of the themes that we had for this year is hero, and how do you be a positive force for good and an impact on your community. And with our operators, it's not just through the guests that come in, but also the staff and working, with the community that they serve and all of that. So you are definitely taking that up and leaning into it even further. So I love it.
And I even did that as an operator myself, giving back to the community and donations. So I've always been about that charitable, what can I do for my people?
Heck yeah. I love it. Well, so how on the public service side and from, you're with Roller, how did you get into the industry, the FEC industry as a whole? And what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was younger, I started off in retail management, and then I finally found my way to Sky Zone, where that's where I really, planted my feet and found that I absolutely love this industry of the attractions and the amusements and just working with all the different types of people. And, whether that be my coworkers or the guests that come into the building and just creating those memorable experiences, I really decided that, this was a good fit for me.
Right on.
I was actually one of the first Sky Zones to actually use Roller. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I've been pretty well versed in Roller. And then I decided to come on over to that side and, share my knowledge with the rest of the...
I dig it. Yeah. I dig it. So how long have you been with Roller now?
Just over a year.
Righteous. Okay. Groovy. Well, so I'm really excited to talk to you about a couple of things as we were thinking about what we wanted to focus on with this episode, as well as just your expertise, both on the operations side, as well as, looking through the lens of what you've done with your time at Roller, looking at how cost cutting and automation strategies for FECs, and what are some things that folks can take advantage of? What are some trends and behavior that we should be seeing, things like that. And so we'll kind of get into them each, in there. So Danny and I have talked a lot about in various episodes, how do we come up with better systems and better processes in order to get better efficiencies, so that way we're cutting down on wasteful, either loss of time, improper use of, just labor force, any of those kinds of things. So what are some of the biggest areas that you're seeing folks automate in order to cut down on silly costs and unnecessary, tax when it comes to a poor process?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of like automation, you can cut down on your labor cost and reduce your staff on hand by just implementing like self-serve kiosks. So when guests come in, they can check themselves out, waiter stands. So, guests don't have to stand around waiting in line or get caught up at the cash registers. You can even streamline your concession stand with those self-serve kiosks as well, or even like online ordering systems.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that allows your staff to have a little bit more time and more time for your guests to have fun and less time standing around in line, that's always a simple way to, get people in and out, automate that process. There's also standard operating procedures. I know from being a manager, the more well documented you have things for when you're not on site, or if a different manager is off that day, just being able to your staff has those resources to go to, because I know firsthand how much time can be wasted trying to figure out a problem or what that next step is. So if you already have those resources prepared and available for your staff, like, that's huge, and that can be a ton of time.
How did you reinforce that when you were working with your team at Sky Zone on the operations side? Because, Danny and I have talked about different ways of, okay, do we gamify it? Like when we're having shift meetings, are you doing some popcorn kind of quizzes and things like that? Are you having them, we have some clients of ours that would even say, hey, we've got some, recorded videos and stuff, and they just do a quick, refresher course of it. And just to have them do a certain number of those where it's the evergreen kind of big process pieces of what do you do when this kind of thing happens, or that more so that way they also get a good understanding of the intent behind it. So in case something ages out or a new system's in place, like they're still understanding, what the end result should be. So that way they can work towards that. What were some of the ways that you guys really tried to reinforce that messaging consistently?
I think having, regular monthly managerial meetings, where you go over expectations, or if you have new updates or changes to your procedures, you make sure you cover those. But that's also your opportunity to hit hey, just because we're adding this doesn't mean we forget about X, Y, and Z.
Gotcha.
All of those other procedures that have been in place for a while now that maybe have gotten pushed to the back burner.
Yeah.
Also, accountability is big. As a great, general manager, training the staff is part of it, but then also implementing it and holding them accountable is huge. You don't want to just give them a whole laundry list of items or a maintenance checklist and be like, yeah, I'm doing that every day. It's beneficial to go behind them and actually make sure that these processes or these checks are being done regularly and properly to ensure that, things moving forward go smooth. I used to always joke with my staff too, okay, what would Megan do if I'm not here? If we run into this issue, think to yourself, what would Megan do? How would she handle this?
Yeah.
And they would joke to themselves, they had those thoughts, wait a minute, I've seen Megan deal with this before. What has she done? And so I think just, being a good manager, holding accountability and setting that example is always the best course of action that, takes no extra money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's so a friend of mine always would say, you can only be told once, but we need to be reminded a lot more. And so it's just that, not taking it for granted, trust but verify, making sure that we're bringing it up to the surface, kind of churning the butter, so to speak, just so that way that stuff is coming to the top and we're not losing it, especially when we have a higher rate of, turnover and change within the staff, even if it's just seasonal stuff or you've got the summer crowd, but then it scales back down, whatever that is. Makes such a big difference. And so one of the things that you had mentioned on that cost cutting through automation, besides just having standard operating procedures, was things like self-serve kiosks. One of the things that I love and that I've started to see folks do a really good job with those kiosks is during slow days of the week, or slower times of the week and that weekday traffic and things like that, it's really helpful just because it allows you to have a little bit less staff on hand, or just more flexible in where they're positioned and how they're able to take on other tasks, but you're still getting upsell opportunities, you're still getting all of that good stuff that goes with it. And then even with on your weekends, being able to have, hey, if I'm a person who hates waiting in lines and all of that kind of stuff, it's and I want to be able to take the express checkout lane, from a poor grocery store example, it works in both of those environments during peak time and slow time, really just giving you the better opportunity to prioritize where and how your staff is actually placed, it feels like.
Yes. And I've always tried to, guests sometimes struggle, when they come into a building, to understand what's the next step for them. Where do I go? What do I do? Especially as a new guest. So signage is, a minimal cost, but it can really streamline your operations just by letting your guests know where to go when they come in. And I'm corny in the sense of buy your waiver station. It can say save some time and sign online with the QR code for their phone to scan. Or as you said, for those self-serve kiosks, skip the line, buy online, all kinds of creative marketing that you can come up with, brand it really nice to your venue.
Yeah.
And that will really help the process. Just because so many staff members too, just, have to step aside to be oh, the first step is signing signing your waiver over here. And
Right.
just, letting the guests know where to go without having to get your staff involved really helps
Well,
streamline that
and being
project.
able to shape some of that customer behavior and expectations. So yes, if this is the first time that they're coming in, they can do some of that. But if it's their third or fourth time and they're seeing that type of signage and messaging and things, it's oh yeah, like we've done this before. I can sign online. I can do some of that as well. So it's a great way to shape them as they come back more frequently as well, I'm sure. Right
Yeah.
on. So I want to talk a little bit about some operational efficiencies, and I think the standard operating procedures, and again, trusting but verifying and having some of that in there. Where are you seeing, beyond that, other opportunities that folks have in order to enhance some of those efficiencies and just, work a little smarter, not harder?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is, taking care of your attractions, as I mentioned before, having equipment checks and like proper maintenance on your attractions.
Mm,
That goes a really long way, just because I know how expensive new attractions can be. And then not only that, sometimes how long these attractions get, how long it takes for delivery and for you to actually receive them and set them up. And sometimes that's an afterthought where if you don't take care of it, like, wow, I need to replace this. Oh no,
mm,
it's going to take 6 months.
right.
So just taking care of the equipment you do have goes a long way. Also, if you can switch to like smart energy systems, I know the upfront cost can be, a little pricier in comparison to some others, but just like smart AC machines where you can set the thermostat to automatically go up a few degrees, once
Mm,
you're closed at night, and automatic lighting systems, the programmable thermostats, like I said, all of that really helps go back to that bottom line.
right on.
Yeah, and help you save some money there.
Yeah.
You can also, also don't forget about your marketing. Marketing can go a long way. Sometimes just a few dollars in the right area can really hit the right audience. So that's why it's important to utilize the data that you have on your guests and make sure you use that customer data to create, targeted marketing campaigns to reach
Hmm.
that right audience at the right time. This approach is definitely more cost effective than just like broad random like blast targeting, for
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah,
Uh,
we are so emphatic about that and even getting down to the point of, hey, what things are we emailing out? What things are we texting out? Like that's a different call to action to a different subgroup based on how they respond to some of that. But then being able to take your customer database and segment that further and say, okay, like if we're pushing something from a, birthday party action, it's okay, great. Every mom from a birthday party that we've had, like targeting that towards the Facebook ads. But then if we're doing, food and beverage specials or other things along those lines, like, hey, that should be a text list to the dads looking to, be able to have something on the Thursday night football or whatever those kinds of things are. So especially as you start to get data, the 101 level is just understanding how many people are coming through and what's your per cap spend and things. But as you grow and start to profile and build out some more specific and tailored information around your customers, if you get that opportunity, it really, to your point, it's so much more cost effective, both from a dollars and time investment to make that happen.
Yes. And one of my favorite like segmentations that I've done, as a past operator and now what I guide my new venues that I help set up to do is one of the best like marketing that you could do is create like an upcoming birthday list.
Mm,
If you want to, change your marketing to be more like girl and boy specific, or if it doesn't matter, but like birthday parties coming up in the next 3 months, for a parent to just open their email and be like, hey, we see your kid has a birthday coming up in the next 3 months.
mm,
Click this link to book a birthday party and save 10% off today. I
right.
cannot tell you, like, just a blast of an email, and I had my return on that was insane. Like, I spent no money, and the amount of parties that were booked just from that one email blast
I love
was
it.
incredible because the parents just love not having to think about it. You're
Hmm.
creating that positive guest experience for them. Hey, wow, they are right. My kids, I don't even have to plan anything now. Yes, perfect, booked. And just like that, you have a sale just because you're taking away that trouble and
Yeah.
those thoughts from that party parent.
Well, it's just being that friendly ping on the radar, right? And giving them an opportunity of like, oh yeah, that has been on my list. I do need to get that squared away. And then yeah, those simple call to actions, but just priming the pump, it makes such a big difference
Yes.
and thinking about that.
And that leads me into like automating the online booking and your ticketing systems too, because if a mom can sit on the couch at 1 a.m. in her pajamas and book a party right there on her phone, that's
Mm-hmm.
what also is going to help increase your sales, increase that guest experience, because
Yeah.
you are like, people in this day and age, they don't want to have to pick up the phone and call and ask questions, or talk to people and
Right.
do a booking over the phone. So
Yeah.
if you can automate that ticketing process, that's huge as well.
Well, and it's meeting the customer where they are, and to your point of being able, like, is this something that I can do with a glass of wine at 11 o'clock? Because I'll tell you, that's how my wife and I do our grocery list every week. It's like Rinker is down and asleep and has been asleep long enough that we know that that's not going to be he's not going to rear his head again for a little bit. And so then it's okay, great. Like what's on the to-do list, and let's roll into some of that stuff. And so being able to have that, can I do this? Can I have easy upsell packages, things like that, all done from my phone where we've got that set up. And even on things like, being able to just book your like instead of just doing a walk-in session, being able to book those things online and reserve a couple of things. Like the average cost or the average spend in those environments when folks when you've trained them to go online and kind of pre-book and pre-buy what they're going to do, like that's most likely the stuff that they were going to do anyway. But then once they're there, then they have more opportunities for additional arcade or for additional food and beverage or other things even beyond it. And so there's a nice healthy jump in the per cap spending when you initially get them to do some of that stuff online. They know what they're planning to do, but then some of the a la carte impromptu purchases and things just increase while they're there to begin with. And so you're staying front of mind. You've got convenient access for them. So that way when they step in, they're not having to do the, like look around and see the menu boards and all of that stuff. Like they can just get into it so much faster.
Right. And on the flip side of that too, like even when you have a great online checkout, with that automated process, guests find like the increase rate and upsell value increases actually online, because sometimes guests are nervous or they feel rushed standing there in line, with all those people behind them, and they don't feel comfortable like reviewing all the options.
Right.
Versus if they have a chance to, view all the products online, and depending on your system, you can offer add-ons and, push other promotions or attractions that you may be running, throughout that checkout process.
Yeah.
That's really going to allow your guests to, get comfortable, view what you have, and just start adding things to the cart. So talk about upsells and like improving that spend. Absolutely.
I dig it.
That also flips to like where staff training is important too, because as you said, if you do want to increase your upsell, per head, like for those bookings that are already online, or even like the walk-in bookings, guests in front of you, running staff promotions or incentives are a great way to get that done. Like I would run contests all the time, whether it's for, my cashiers up front. Hey, whoever sells the most memberships this month wins a $25 Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
So for $25, you may be able to sell 200 memberships that month, just for a simple $25 gift card investment. And then same goes at concessions. Like, hey, whoever has, the most items on average per transaction at concessions, will win a gift card as well. And it's just going to push them to actually interact with those guests, see if they need anything else. They're not afraid to, talk and ask more.
Yeah.
So, and that's very low cost ways to get additional sales.
I will. So one, I can firsthand attest to this. The very first job that I had in high school was at a car wash. And so they would have daily incentive pieces of, hey, who has the most upsells off of the base package or doing this. And it was a great way for me to like really stack up like take home cash or gift cards and other things. Like I'm like, this is just sweet bonus pay. And I'm, was already, a competitive person by nature. So I wanted to be at the top regardless. So like you have this gamification, you're doing a nice Pavlovian response to it. But it's also helping the staff understand like, hey, this is where we can really make or break like a good week versus a bad or a great week. Like how we can do some of that. And some of the things that we would even do is beyond the individual level, we would do additional incentives of, hey, last year, this week's earnings were this much. If we're above it by 10%, then we're going to kick back 2 of that percent and split it amongst the staff that was working there. Just again, for, everybody working and contributing towards those really successful weeks. And so it was a nice balance, of both individual incentives to really help move the needle, but then everybody who's also there handling all of the other things, back of house, other opportunities and things. Like, it was a great way, if they didn't have a role that necessarily put them in that spot, to still have recognition and reinforcement of, when we all show up this way together as a team, like, there is bounty to be shared as well.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And you had mentioned, membership programs, and I am not emphatic that it's the right choice for every single center that's out there, but am becoming more and more convinced that it is a heavily underutilized program or opportunity for operators to get either recurring revenue, stay stickier in front of their customers, and incentivize them to be able to come back more. Like, Zach Johnson and their team up at Revved Up Fun in Michigan do a fantastic, like, full membership program. I know other folks will have some, hey, download our app or do this, and you get, a few, incentives or extra offers and stuff. What are you seeing out there in the landscape that's working well, either from a full-blown membership, program, or even just a, hey, subscribe to our newsletter and you get a $5 BOGO card or something for the arcade once a month, or little things like that? What are you seeing play well in the sandbox these days?
Yeah, well, besides, offering memberships, in terms of memberships, I agree with you. It doesn't always work best for every single venue, but I've noticed in the venues that do really well at it, the ones that offer tiered memberships tend to be really successful, because not everybody has the money to spend a lot on a monthly reoccurring, like, billing expense. So having those different options for them, whether it's just like a Monday through Friday membership where you can capitalize on those off-peak periods, and you don't have to worry about memberships on the weekends if you're worried about, losing the money during your busiest times.
Yeah.
There's ways that you can make those memberships, work to your advantage. There's also loyalty programs that you can put in place at your venue, and guests love that. I know me personally, when I go somewhere and I earn points, and then I know, like, ooh, next visit, I'm going to save 20% off now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a good feeling. I feel good about going back and spending money there because you feel valued, like you're getting something in return. So all of that's very beneficial. I mean, and then the last thing too, like, customer service, guest experience is everything. You can sell memberships, you can have loyalty programs, but if you don't have the staff and the experience to go with it, they're not going to want to return. So you could have the best pricing, the best promotions, but your staff really needs to be able to provide that memorable experience, leave them happy, leave them wanting to come back. It all goes together. You can't have one without the other.
I agree, Your Honor. I agree. And we talk about that all the time of, hey, you can don't buy a Ferrari if you're only going to deliver pizzas with it, right? Like, I mean, you have to be able to create those special moments, still have your staff be, freed up to actually directly connect with your guests and help them be seen and heard as they're going through their, time at the center. So I definitely love that. We talked a little bit about some of the changes in how folks are buying, whether it's through online, pre-bookings and those kinds of elements. Where else and how are you seeing some of the spending habits from the customer bases change that helps us be aware of as operators, that we need to be aware of, rather?
Yeah, well, consumer spending on, like, out-of-home entertainment, I would say, has become more cautious over the years, especially with how the economy is, uncertainties. People want to make sure their money is going to the right place. So they're prioritizing their spending, and they really want to opt for experiences that provide that best value. So that's why I said customer service. That's important. That all goes with it. So, like, family entertainment centers and, these venues, you got to be aware of the switch. And that's why adding those memorable experiences, but also maybe like bundled package deals, special promotions, you can attract those budget conscious, like, consumers. I know I used to run a family meal deal, which was just like Monday through Thursday night, where you could get 4 jump passes and a large pizza with, like, a large popcorn and a pitcher of soda for the cost of just admission. So in terms of, families justifying that, they're like, wow, I can get my kids out of the house to go play, and we get dinner for free out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
let's do it. So when you're not busy on a Thursday night because kids are in school and you hear the crickets, instead you have some nice families coming in, they're filling the tables, they're enjoying their time together, and you're creating that nice experience, family bonding over dinner while jumping through the park. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you gotta overall enhance that guest experience.
Yeah.
You have to have high quality attractions. That's why it goes back to maintenance. It wants to be clean, well taken care of, excellent customer service, and those few things can help your venue stand out from others.
Right on. I love that. Well, and my head even spinning of, okay, well, if we've got loyalty member folks and we have some of those, hey, come in for the price of admission, you get the meal, you get these other things, like being able to just remind them, hey, you have X number of points that you can use. Or, hey, as a loyalty member, we also wanted to make sure you were aware of this. Like, it's giving you those soft touches with them where it's not it's just a, hey, we want to make sure you're taking advantage of it if it's something that you're interested in, and keeping that just top of mind in a nice friendly way, right? Where it's not just, we miss you, it's been a long time since you've come back, and things like that, but showing, hey, especially in the economic piece where folks are being more discerning of where they're spending time and money. It's like, oh yeah, I don't have to do everything on the weekend and have peak pricing. Like, they're trying to shape some of those customer behaviors where they feel like they can spend money that, and get a good value for it. So then they're more inclined to do it. But then you're just reinforcing yourself as that good kind of more consistent place to come because they can come and feel like they always get a lot more out of it.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, I know with like advanced online booking systems, it can use that guest analytics and like customer data to recommend certain products to them based on their past like spending history, so then it does feel like personalized, like, wow, it knows I love laser tag. Yeah, let me go ahead and add that on. But then on the other hand, if you don't have the money for those advanced online booking systems that have those capabilities, that's where the guest experience comes in. Because I know as a manager, I work all the time. I see those customers, I learn their names, I learn what their kids are into, what they're into. And then being able to provide that good customer service and being able to make those recommendations on my own, just because I know them and I know what they might be interested in. Or, hey, we just launched this really great membership that's perfect for you and your family, I think you should check it out. That's where, on the other hand, you don't have the money for the system. You can still provide a similar service in-house.
Well, it also helps just reduce the word of mouth that you get by having a more personable relationship with those regulars or those folks that are taking advantage of it. Like, they're going to tell other people, oh my gosh, you guys have to go and do this thing or do that. So like, you're getting more referrals, you're getting more happy testimonials from folks that are talking about it, whether it's the neighborhood mom groups or what have you, that now all of a sudden I'm not only getting a better value to the customer and exceeding expectations from what they're spending to what they're getting, but then they're also telling others about it as well. And so it really starts to help make it, it's an extension of marketing dollars, to a certain extent, because you're getting more exposure to that through the people taking advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely. Happy customers are your best marketers. I mean, I can tell you as a manager, I always made sure that every guest was leaving happy, especially my party parents. I would personally check in with each party parent before that final payment was taken to ensure that they had a great time, check with all their guests, make sure everyone, was leaving happy, because word of mouth is the best marketing that money can't buy. So you just taking those few extra minutes to check in on these parties and to make sure they're happy before they go out there and leave, reviews online or Facebook, whatever it may be, that's the best thing that you could do. So, you check in with them. Hey, you had a great time. I love to hear that. Please leave a positive review for us and your party host, on our website. And they're like, oh yes, I will. And it's because you made that experience a little more personalized for them, and they felt taken care of, at the end of it. So, focus building strong relationships, whether it's with your staff and with your guests, with your clients, because that's only going to help you understand, your data that you may have about their preferences and their behaviors and all of that, and, truly help you understand your satisfied customer, who then will most likely become the repeat visitor that you want them to be.
For sure. Well, and we've even started doing that even at CW, where it's as you're going through each major phase of the project and things, it's, hey, like, we're so excited to start on this project. How did your consultant help you through this process? Like, would you rate these things? It's quick, it's easy, it's 2 or 3 questions, but then, hey, we're through the production standpoint. How was the project management experience? So one, it helps us better identify, is there a process or a breakdown somewhere that's causing friction that we're not even aware of, as well as if you're, thinking, if the customers that are giving you that feedback are actually taking the time to, think through, hey, how was this experience for me? All of that kind of stuff. Like, if we're doing our job the way that we need to, and we're getting, a lot of positive reviews and everything back, like, it's just such invaluable internal metrics, but also then, the folks that, if they're inclined to be able to take that kind of survey as well, who they're talking to and everyone else of, they're being reminded, oh yeah, this process does work really well. And so they're referrals to other customers and stuff as well. So it transcends and goes up and down the chain for sure, being able to get that type of feedback for sure.
Yes.
Well, I love that. As we get to our wrap up point here, obviously we've got Amusement 360 coming up, and we're so excited for it. It's actually the one in this September is rapidly approaching its point of being able to sell out. So I wanted to make sure that if folks haven't registered for that yet, be able to use the code ROLLER24, and we'll also have updated codes in the future for the other events if it's after our September 360 event. But just wanted to thank you and the team for your participation and what you guys bring to the table, as far as just, having more of that customer centric, how do we serve, how do we help solve problems? Y'all are a great group of cats, and we really appreciate getting to work with you guys.
Oh, we love working with you too. Thank you. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Well, with that, one final thought is, when Danny and I are doing episodes and things, we love to share, hey, what are we reading? What new content are we seeing? Is there a good life lesson or quote or podcast or anything that has really been serving you of late, or just good food for thought to have for folks before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. So, I think I didn't mention this before, but I am a training and implementation manager at Roller. So I help people, set up their venue, get launched, and, ensure success for them. And one tip that's been really popular with me lately, that I would like to share, I guess, is take a few extra minutes when you're like setting up a first time venue, or if you're getting new hardware, credit card terminals, whatever it may be. Take a few extra minutes, get a label machine, and label each end of each wire. So even if it's a wireless mouse or a wireless keyboard, if they belong at point of sale 1, label everything point of sale 1.
Yes.
Label the beginning of the wire and the end of the wire. Because it may not seem that crucial now, but after 6 months of being open and something goes down and support tells you to unplug and plug it back in, or if this cord is checked and you're like, oh my God, because it's a sea of wires behind underneath the counter or behind the registers. And you spend so much time like troubleshooting unnecessarily. So if you just take it, like I said, 5-10 minutes when setting up your venue, when setting up your hardware, label everything. It's amazing, because I can't tell you how many times my staff is like, this mouse isn't working, it's not working. And then you just flip it over and you're like, yeah, it's because you have register 3's mouse on register 1. Like, you're probably sending that register crazy over there.
I was going to say, you just booked $10,000 worth of parties on
the other register. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Just switch them up and then problem solved.
That's very 2-second lean. So there's a book out there, Paul Akers, he's got it, and he takes that Toyota lean manufacturing process and helps kind of truncate it to where you can apply it to almost any business that you have. And so I love that idea, and your future self will thank you for the time and the frustration, because when you're, to your point, like when you're dealing with something, it's those little things that if we can shave off the edges or the friction around stuff like that, or keep the small things small with some good processes, that way it's always worth it for sure. I love that. Well, Megan, thank you so much for joining us. And with that, I think we're going to wrap everything up. But we've got more awesome content coming your guys' way. Thank you so much. If you have ideas for future content or topics that you'd like us to discover, please feel free to direct message us through our social media, and we'll make sure to add that to our queue. If you liked what you heard today, please don't forget to give us a review, and we always appreciate the 5 stars if we've earned it. If you have, like like I mentioned, any ideas or topics that you want us to cover on, we'll be happy to dive into them. And a big shout out to Mikey Mike on the ones and twos working the Ultranet for us. Big shout out to the Honorable Megan Zemaitis for joining us as well. And thank you all for your time, and we'll catch you on the next one, Troublemakers.